To the men that don't fit in, understand that that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I didn't fit in a variety of different ways growing up. And even as I've become more and more successful, it's almost like the further I go, the less I fit in different areas of my life. So I want to explain both sides of this. Like, to the guys that are trying to fit in, and maybe you just didn't fit in growing up, or even if you've already had success. And I think there's guys on the extreme side that are almost like rebellious, that don't want to fit in almost like intentionally. There's just a couple different concepts in this video I want to discuss with you guys. And a lot of it is just a mindset shift, because I feel like you're genuinely being shackled to some extent, either wanting to fit in, or you're in your head about the perception of other people and the potential repercussions if you don't fit in. And that could be your career path, that could be your living situation, that could be the way you look, that could be maybe the things you want in your own relationship, it could be sexual desires, it could be anything, right? There's a lot of different places that we are shackled in our day-to-day due to potential fear of judgment from other people. And so for that reason, we actually want to fit in, right? And I think it stems from a biological survival mechanism, because we're born into environments where it's more beneficial if we fit into a tribe, right? If you have a group of people around you and you grow up with a family, or even back in the day, we would grow up with a tribe. And so instinctually, it's in our DNA to want to fit in. And then as you grow up, as you're going through school, like me personally, I was never the jock. I was never the really popular kid. I played video games throughout high school. I was honestly low-key a fucking loser. Like, I didn't go to high school prom. I didn't have a girlfriend. I was wearing pajama pants in school. Like, I was not that guy by any means. In a lot of different ways, I didn't fit in. I wanted to. I really wanted to. Like, I wanted to be one of the cool kids. I was kind of friends with some of them later on in my high school. Like going into senior year, I started to be a little cool because I threw a couple parties. But like, I didn't really fit in the majority of my teenage years. And in fact, I found myself trying to escape from reality a lot of the time, because my dad died at a young age. And so I dove off into video games as a means of escaping. And then later on, it was weed as a means of escaping. It really wasn't until my mid-20s where I dove more into self-development and started to assume responsibility for my actions and really took character development seriously, that I actually started to build myself up. And even in those times, like, to build myself up in terms of building my own channel on YouTube and teaching cold approach pickup and dating, and then doing that as a career path and telling people I was doing that, and covering my body in tattoos, and just a bunch of different things I had to do, they didn't go with the norms of society, right? So I wanted to explain this to you guys, because understand that, like, to fit in is not necessarily a good thing. Even though I wanted to fit in my teenage years, and I wanted to be one of the cool kids, and I wanted to do those things, it's almost a good thing it didn't happen, like, honestly, because like the more and more you fit in, it's because societal pressure and external pressures are pushing you to be like that. Right? Like, if I look back at the people that were the cool kids in high school, most of these people, no offense to them, but like, they're not in a position that I actually want to be in right now in my life. Right? And then also, as I started to go down my own path, like, I'll give you guys a couple different examples. One of which was the idea of going out and practicing your social confidence through cold approach. Right? That was very, very weird and not the norm by any means in society. And so when I would go out and do that, understand there would be judgment from my old friend group for doing it. And then also, if any girl found out that that's what you were trying to do or practice, that's pretty weird, right? From societal viewpoint. But then also to start a channel where you're teaching other men to do that, that doesn't fit in at all. That's not a normal career path, Kyle. What are you doing here, right? Then when the channel started to go more and more viral, everybody from my school found out about it. My neighbors found out about it. My mom was watching my channel. Like, there was so many different things that were outside the norm of what was supposed to be the standard to fit in, right? And so the more, in my opinion, the more that you fit in, and by no means, guys, am I trying to say like break the rules, like break the law, like be rebellious and deliberately try not to fit in. That's not what I'm saying. This is more about not being pressured into a life where you're shackled because you have fear of judgment from other people about you not fitting in on certain things. So you dress a certain way, or you talk a certain way, or you choose a certain career path, or you choose a certain environment to live in, or you choose something. You choose something that's not really the thing you want. Like, I know a lot of guys compromise themselves to be in a certain type of relationship because of external pressure, even. Like, you're afraid to upset your partner. Like, there's so many different potential fear of judgment. And I think it's really shackling a lot of people. So if you're watching this and you feel like to some extent, either you find this urge to want to fit in, or you didn't fit in growing up, and now you think you're like a loser because of that. First off, who gives a, like, whatever happened in your past, man, it is what it is. Like, the good news is that regardless of what happened in the past, wherever you're at right now, man, whether you fit in or not, you still have your whole life to start acting however you want. But that ties back to the core theme of this video, which is like, it is on you to take those actions. And I think so many of us are shackled and don't want to take the actions because it goes against the norm. You don't want to post that content because what are your friends on social media going to think about you when you post that video? Oh no, I'm posting this thing. Those people are going to think differently of me. I better not post it because everybody's going to look at me if I do that thing. Right? That's you wanting to fit in. Even though your dream is to be an influencer or start a brand or be able to make money off of content or go up and approach that girl, even though like those are your dreams, you want to be confident, you want to have a brand, you want to have these things, you want to relocate to a different environment, right? Like, if that's actually what you want, man, you gotta fucking go for that shit, bro. You gotta go for that, because here's the thing. Everybody that wants you to, they want you to fit in, they don't really care about you. Honestly, this is the core piece of this video, is that you need to understand that nobody, I mean, even your parents, your closest friends, they don't really care as much as you think they do about you. It's more about, everybody is somewhat everybody to some extent has a selfish desire around their perspective on you. All right? And if I would have followed everybody else's perception and judgment and concern, and I would have gave into those thoughts about, let me not do this, let me not take that action, let me not post that thing, let me not dress this way or do this thing or get this tattoo or do whatever, by default, I would not be the person I genuinely wanted to become, because I actually, thank God, and honestly, guys, I think to some extent I can attribute a lot of this to the death of my father at a very young age. My dad passed when I was really young, I was 12 years old, and because of that, I didn't have a father figure in place. And my mom kind of allowed me to have some level of freedom in my day-to-day. Now in my teens, I just chose weed and video games because I was very young and misguided. But as I got older and older, I really didn't have the pressure from the parentals, I think the way that a lot of people do. And because of that reason, I just made these decisions on my own. And then I also allowed my own creative, I guess you could say, genius to some extent, to start my own channel and build up my own content. I used my pain and frustration and my motivation to launch that brand. And I told myself, like, who gives a fuck what anybody else thinks? Like, this is really what I want, and this is what I want to go after, and I'm just going to go for it regardless of anybody else's perception on it, right? And I can attribute a lot of that mindset to, very similarly, cold approach. And I know a lot of people that watch my content may not even be doing cold approach that much, but understand that by going out and pushing your comfort zone socially and going up to people and facing rejection and facing potential judgment from other people, cold approach taught me to not give a fuck about what other people's perceptions are, because it's all bullshit, right? And so, although a lot of people knock cold approach and going out and socializing, and they think it's a waste of time because you won't necessarily get the girl, understand that, like, that skill set that was cultivated from doing that taught me so much, because up until that point in my life, I was completely shackled, right? Afraid to not fit in, wanting to fit in, was kind of on the outcast side of things to some extent. But then as I got older, it was like, I didn't fit in the opposite direction. And thank God I didn't want to fit in, because the way that my life would have turned out was either law school, like I had a criminal justice undergrad degree, and I took my LSATs, I had my application ready. All I needed to do was put that in the mail, and that would have been the most acceptable job for me would have been to be a lawyer, because it was a prestigious job. My mom would have been proud of me. My family would have been proud of me. Anybody that asked, what do you do for work? I could say a lawyer. I think I'm cool. I think I'm high status because I'm a lawyer. I didn't want to be a fucking lawyer, man. I shadowed lawyers and I did the LSAT and I'm like, I don't want to do this thing. Like, this is just me really trying to fit in. And so I didn't do it. Thank God I couldn't go through with it because it was so unaligned with what I really wanted to be. Right? And I didn't even know what I wanted to be, but I knew I didn't want to do that thing. And so I didn't commit to it. And then as time went on more and more, I actually got more into social skills, male-female dynamics, cold approach. And through building those skill sets, I learned I could do anything I want in this life. And more importantly, the things that you're afraid to go after because it doesn't fit in with society, man, that's where the most growth happens. The most growth happens right on the other side of the uncomfortable thing that you're worried about doing because of all of these bullshit concerns that are going on out there, man. You have negative self-talk, you got limiting beliefs, you got doubts, concerns, fear, perception of judgment from other people, your parents, your friends, the social circle you grew up with. I actually just connected with a childhood friend. He actually came here. He was in Miami. He hit me up. I haven't seen the guy in years. And he came out here. But I remember a time in my journey 10 years ago where I was afraid of judgment from that person. And so literally him and the rest of my friend group when I was younger, I was afraid of FOMO. If they were going to go out, I needed to go out just in case they would have too much fun without me. I needed to fit in the group. Cared about everybody else's perspective of me in that group. And slowly throughout my 20s, I learned to become my own man and make my own decisions. And I made a bunch of wrong decisions too. It wasn't all perfect. Like I fucked up so many different ways in my life. But thank God I didn't fit in, man. Thank God I didn't fit in. If you feel like you're pushing yourself too much to try to fit in with something and you're worried about the potential judgment of somebody else, bro, you got to go take that action because that's where the most growth is. It's freeing. That's what it is. It's freeing to be on the other side of it, to be a man that you don't give a fuck whether or not you fit in. I don't care. I genuinely don't care because I've had enough success at this point. It's undeniable. You can't tell me I made the wrong moves. You just can't say that, right? But there was a period where I didn't have that much success and I was very concerned with those things. And if you're in that area, all I got to say, man, is you got to keep going towards those uncomfortable actions. You got to keep making those decisions, taking the right steps, regardless of what the environment and the normal people think about it. Normal people have a problem with it because normal people are living a normal life and your actions don't align with a normal life. And for that reason, I can confidently say, fuck trying to fit in. Okay? Think about this in your own day-to-day about the actions you want to do and act the way that you would act. Take the actions that you would take if there was no negative perception about you taking the actions. Because deep down, that's what you want anyway. And deep down, that's going through with those things is what's going to lead to the most growth, whether it's content, women, living situation, career path, your aesthetic appearance. Whatever the thing is, if you truly, truly desire that thing, I'm not talking about like a 1 second burst of emotion impulsively. I'm talking about you truly desire this thing and you want this thing and you know you find yourself being called to this thing. You gotta fucking go after that thing, man. You owe it to yourself. Otherwise, you're gonna live the rest of your life wondering what if, and that is what everybody else that is fitting in does. They sit around, they talk shit on other people, and they fantasize about the life they could have had if they actually had the balls to not fit in. All right, if you need a push going through that journey, if you want to fast track that, if you want step-by-step guidance, if you can't do it alone and you want to work with me directly to get that push to not fit in a good way, click the links down below. Check out the brand new coaching programs I got for this year. That's all for this video, guys. See you in the next one. Peace out. Let's go.